So we are, for those who walked in late, those little slips of paper and the pens are to encourage every kind of learner, introverted, extroverted, and somewhere in between, to jot down a question as it comes to mind or a comment that you have. And midway through the class, I'll do a collection so that we can have more participants in different ways. We are talking about the deaths of these two characters in the Talmud, Reish, Lakish, and Rabbi Yochanan. This is one of the most well-known and commonly studied texts or stories in the Talmud because it's a great story. It has drama, it has intrigue, it has friendship and betrayal. The characters, Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, were Amoraim, rabbis in the Talmudic era in the 3rd century in Israel. And Yochanan is a very prominent, well-known leader. I included the top paragraph there, which we'll read quickly. I forgot to put the, what's that called, the 3 dots? The ellipsis? Is that the word? The ellipsis, but the first paragraph is not juxtaposed to the second one. There are a couple more paragraphs in between, but I wanted to show you some of the background because before the story begins, the Talmud is going on and on about the beauty of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan was exceedingly attractive, and apparently he was a very large man that was considered beautiful. He was huge, he was large, he was very, very beautiful to look at. This paragraph at the beginning talks about Rabbi Yochanan's physical beauty, saying, Rabbi Yochanan used to say, I remain of the most beautiful people of Jerusalem. And then, so he was also very modest, right? And the Talmud continues, one who wishes to see something resembling the beauty of Rabbi Yochanan should bring a new shiny silver goblet from the smithy, fill it with red pomegranate seeds, place a diadem of red roses upon the lip of the goblet, position it between the sunlight and the shade, and that luster is a semblance of the beauty of Rabbi Yochanan. I have some extra sheets. Did anyone, do you need, no? Okay. Oh, great. Anybody else need one? Anyone else need a handout? I'm sorry, for those who are following on the video, we are studying in the tractate Bava Metzia, page 84a. Bava Metzia 84a. What does this tell us about the beauty of Rabbi Yochanan? Not only was he so beautiful, but it was almost impossible to capture anything that would truly resemble, it was a rare beauty, right? How could you get it? If you put this together with that and put it in the sunlight just at this angle, that was who Rabbi Yochanan was. So he was striking. He was.
Table settings today that I've
seen. It's like table settings. So another story there that I didn't bring because there's so much that could be said about this, but another story is that Rabbi Yochanan used to sit at the entrance of the mikveh. The entrance of the mikveh, the bathhouse, where the women would be immersing after their time apart from their husbands, after menstruation. They would go to the mikveh, and they would then go home and conceive children as beautiful as Rabbi Yochanan and as learned as Rabbi Yochanan. So first of all, it teaches us that the mikveh wasn't this secretive place that nobody should talk about, and sexuality wasn't something to be ashamed of. Here's another handout you can send down. But rather, the greatest Torah scholar of the generation would sit there because the belief was that if you would meditate on or look at or think of whatever it was, then the child conceived of this union would have those traits. So Rabbi Yochanan used to sit at the mikveh.
No, but
sit outside the mikveh. No, he didn't go. We're going to have another bathing story, actually. So there's no medical, modern medicine would not corroborate this theory. But in the 3rd century, this was the best they knew. Okay.
I think I know why they reassembled him, the children.
What's that?
They look like him. I think
There was another reason that the children looked like him. Awesome. Touche. So in the trope of this class, I've been asking, what can we learn from a person's death? What can we learn about their life? So in this case, this is the death of Reish Lakish and of Rabbi Yochanan, these two friends. So we'll ask, what can we learn about this friendship? What can we learn about this relationship, about this connection that these two friends have, based on the story of their deaths? And remember, throughout the story, I always say these kinds of stories, you have to take them with like a Talmudic grain of salt. You know, whether this was a cause and an effect, whether this was the way the world worked, that someone could be so heartbroken that they spontaneously died. Okay, this was their version or their telling of the events that happened. So this is the second paragraph now on our page. And I may have said this before, but just to remind us, the words that are in bold are the actual words in the Hebrew or in the Aramaic, in the Talmud. And the words that are in regular type are the translator kind of filling in the sentences so that it reads better in English. So if you were reading this in the Hebrew or the Aramaic in the original, it wouldn't start with the Gemara relates, but the translator is giving us, sort of setting up, the Talmud is telling us, right? The Gemara is telling us. Gemara, Talmud, same thing. Okay. Here we go. Rabbi Yochanan, one day Rabbi Yochanan was bathing in the Jordan River. Reish Lakish, I'm sorry, I didn't say anything about Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish is actually an acronym, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. His name was Shimon. Reish, Rabbi Shimon. Reish Lakish. So Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish is at this point a bandit, a gladiator, a secular Jew, okay? And this is basically the story of Reish Lakish's spiritual awakening, if you will. Reish Lakish saw him and jumped into the Jordan, pursuing him. Now that we know that Rabbi Yochanan was so beautiful and hung out at the bathhouses, some will read this scene even as, is it a little bit erotic, or what is the relationship between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish? Nothing explicit is being said, but he's jumping into the river after him. And it's not because of his Torah. Because we know Reish Lakish is not interested in that, not yet. So, and the translator here gives you that background. At that time, Reish Lakish was the leader of a band of marauders. Okay, so he's a lowlife. Rabbi Yochanan said to Reish Lakish, "Your strength is fit for Torah study." Reish Lakish said to him, "Your beauty is fit for women." What's happening here? There's a banter, there's a flirt maybe, or they already they have some kind of rapport right away. And Rabbi Yochanan is you know, he's assuming his role as the rabbi. Here's a good target. You have so much strength, you value strength, you can use that strength for a higher purpose. You can use that strength, maybe not only physical strength, but determination, stubbornness, whatever it is that, you know, Reish Lakish was known for. Your strength could be served Torah. And so Reish Lakish says, okay, what about your beauty? Rabbi Yochanan, now, well, I want to know what you make of this. Rabbi Yochanan said to him, if you return, if you do teshuvah, right, that's the word return, to the pursuit of Torah, I will give you my sister in marriage, who is more beautiful than I am. Reish Lakish accepted upon himself to study Torah. Subsequently, Reish Lakish wanted to jump back out of the river to bring back his clothes, but he was unable to return. So now that non-bolded part interprets, because he had lost his physical strength as soon as he accepted the responsibility of Torah learning. You don't have to read it that way. So let's just bracket that last sentence, which is one possible read of it. So what has happened? Your beauty, right? Reish Lakish is focused on beauty. Rabbi Yochanan says, if you give me Torah, I'll give you beauty. I'll give you my sister. That's the way marriages worked, right? No, obviously she has to agree to it later, But he offers his sister, and Reish Lakish says, okay, I will study Torah. And then he can't get back to his old clothes. So what's going on? What's going on?
Well, maybe he feels that he has to give himself up. There's no strength left, and he's going to get strength from studying.
So he's now lost something, or he's given something up, just in committing to a different path. Yeah, what else? What do you make of this? Yeah.
Well, studying Torah means that they're sitting, they're not getting to the when he
Right.
learned it, he ran around a lot,
So it signifies a physical change, that now he's going to be sitting indoors studying. It's the Jacob and Esau paradigm. Either you are Jacob, Ishtam Yoshev Ohalim, you're sitting inside in the tents, you're bookish, or you're Esau and you're out in the fields. So he's now crossed over, and it's like his old role is already left behind in some way.
His Torah study, what he's going to do is going to give him back his physical strength. I'm sorry to say, I don't think so.
Right. He's going to become out of shape. He's going to become a pale yeshiva bacher, right?
He'll become more of a
Yeah. So you could say he's exchanging one strength for another.
Is this not part of the philosophy today of the Haredi Jews in Israel, that they don't serve in the army?
I wouldn't connect this to the army in any formal sense.
Well,
But he's a warrior. Yeah. He's a gladiator. It says he was a gladiator, a fighter, but more in
well, it's a strength type of
yes. Yeah. So he's exchanging one for the other.
Why do you have to exchange one for the other?
So it's presenting an either or. It's presenting something that we'd hope we could find a happy medium for. But here, Rabbi Yochanan, I mean, it's interesting because Rabbi Yochanan also, he's a Torah scholar, but he also has beauty. And Reish Lakish is a bandit who also has some intellectual interest. So, okay, Monica, you had something to say, and then Gloria, and then we'll see what happens.
I'm just wondering whether the mixture of all these words is basically saying huge change in this man.
A big shift. And he hasn't done anything yet, but he's made a decision, which, a big shift. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I was going to say it's really like a metaphor. It's not the real thing.
Right.
The idea
There's
of
symbolism
committing-
here.
of committing yourself to a way of thinking and a way of life and a morality. It's a shift, and you have to let go of one in order to truly embrace the other. You can't have both.
And in thinking about this story, again, we were thinking about the connection, the friendship. What has made him make this change? One simple encounter. So was Rabbi Yochanan so convincing? Was there an immediate connection? He said, come study Torah, I'll give you my sister. Did he want his sister so badly that he knew maybe his sister had this reputation of being the most beautiful woman in town?
Maybe he was looking for a wife.
Maybe he was looking for a wife.
The sister, being the sister of this illustrious rabbi, he's not only that he's been invited into a very, from a marauder bandit jumping in crazy.
Right, that's it. That's actually a really good point. He's being invited into the elite family. He's going to have beautiful children. All right, let's one last comment, and then we're going to move forward.
Rabbi Yochanan's beauty and allure was more than just physical. I think at the time this is the way they would describe things, right? If you read like the Song of Songs, he was talking about so that type of alliteration was common in poetry. But when somebody has like a soul that is very illuminated, like there's an attraction to them, and they become like, and so that if they're physically beautiful as well, but it couldn't have been just physical beauty.
Okay, so you're saying that. Thank you.
Probably
That
didn't have the pale yeshiva look, and you have to admit
that Rabbi Yochanan's beauty was
that was actually attractive and healthy.
represented an inner beauty, an inner something that was shining.
Well, then he probably had both, and that's, you don't see that often because it's often one or the other.
So I was just going to say it's a kind of charisma that's very rare
Yeah.
that he possessed.
That's what
Yeah, people should feel free to pass these up at any time, but in about 10 minutes I will say, like, let's pause and everyone have a chance to write something if they would like to. Okay, so here's what happens with these two men. Rabbi Yochanan taught Reish Lakish Torah, that's Bible, right? And taught him Mishnah, and turned him into a great man. And eventually Reish Lakish became one of the outstanding Torah scholars of his generation. So elsewhere, there's another place in the Talmud where it describes the power, the intellectual power of Reish Lakish when he would be debating halachot, laws. It was like he would take two mountains and crash them together. So even using these images of strength, but his intellectual strength or his Torah greatness was really out of this world. One day, so now years pass, and Reish Lakish is one of the preeminent scholars, and Rabbi Yochanan has continued to be his chavruta, right? His study mate. One day, the sages of the study hall were engaging in a dispute concerning the following braita, that means the following teaching. So there's a teaching about a detail regarding ritual impurity. At what point does a vessel become susceptible to ritual impurity is another way of saying at what point in the manufacturing process is the vessel complete. So with regard to the sword, the knife, and the dagger, the spear, the hand sickle, and the harvest sickle, from when are they susceptible to ritual impurity? The Baraita answers, it's from a time that of the completion of their manufacture. That's the general halacha. If you have like a slab of metal, it's not yet considered a complete vessel, and it's not susceptible to these impurities. So then they ask, when is the completion of their manufacture? Like, what's the point where the slab of metal crosses the line to becoming a dagger? What's that? They want to split hairs on this detail, but it matters. When is it finished? Rabbi Yochanan's opinion is from when one fires these items in the furnace. Reish Lakish said it's from when one scours them in water after they're fired in the furnace. So these are, I guess, different parts of the manufacturing process. And Rabbi Yochanan says one thing, Reish Lakish says another, and then Rabbi Yochanan says, a bandit knows his banditry. You must be right, because you're an expert in weapons. What did he just do to his buddy Reish Lakish? It's like a dig. Yeah, remember where you came from. Even in this study hall, you are always a former bandit. And by the way, who got you out of that? Okay, so wait, let's just finish this part. A bandit knows his banditry. And Reish Lakish said to Rabbi Yochanan, what benefit did you provide me by bringing me closer to Torah? There among the bandits, they called me the leader. And here too, they call me the leader. This translation says, there they're calling me the leader of bandits. And here also they're calling me the leader of bandits, meaning you just put me right back there. I'm still the leader of bandits. I guess I never really changed. You still see me as a criminal. By the way, another way of reading that, I mean, I didn't bring the Hebrew, but when he's saying, there they called me a leader, here they called me a leader, what else could he be saying if you don't have those other words in? That's what the original says. There they called me a leader, here they called me a leader.
They're acknowledging his expertise.
I've always been a leader, with or without you. So I was a leader of bandits, now I'm a leader of Torah scholars. Everyone acknowledges my greatness wherever I go. What's the argument going back and forth between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan? What are they arguing? Who's given him? Who's made his life better? Did Rabbi Yochanan bring him closer to Torah and make him a leader? And Rabbi Reish Lakish is saying, no, I was always a leader. Or maybe, you're still calling me a leader of bandits. You see, there's different ways of reading this line. And Rabbi Yochanan says, yeah, but I provided benefit to you. I brought you closer to God under the wings of the divine presence. You were nothing without me.
What about being the sum of all your life experiences? experiences that brought you to who you are today. It's you don't negate what you went through before. There were some things, even being leader of bandits, you learned about weaponry. So
You're saying we should acknowledge where Reish Lakish came from because there's value to that too.
I think we're a sum of everything we've been up to this point.
Then why is Reish Lakish offended? Or why is Reish Lakish insulted?
Because he didn't like his tone of voice.
He wants to forget about his past. Or maybe the tone was not honoring his past, which it could have been, right? We weren't there, but you can't hear. It's like when you can't read a text, sarcasm or a tone of voice in a text. So clearly whatever it was Rabbi Yochanan said was a stab at Reish Lakish, a reminder of his past.
But it says in the Gemara, we're not supposed to remind a person.
We're not supposed to. We're not supposed to remind someone who has changed, of their checkered past. Exactly. Yeah, Naomi. You thought he was honoring him.
Absolutely. He gave him a compliment, and the guy took it the wrong way. Because he can easily, the way I heard it wasn't that, hey, a bandit knows this. Hey, folks, we can learn from this guy. He knows we could learn from him. And then Lakish takes it the wrong, but then it goes wrong.
Okay, so you're saying Rabbi Yochanan intended it with respect, and Reish Lakish maybe was sensitive.
But the problem
Took it the wrong way.
The sentence itself is ambiguous. You see, that's the problem of dealing with sarcasm or all these things.
Right.
It's not an innocent statement. To make it really innocent, he says, hey, a bandit really knows his bandit. We better listen to him. You need that.
Right. You assumed it was an innocent statement. A bandit knows his banditry. But we can't tell by reading it. And regardless of what the intention was, Reish Lakish took it the wrong way. Yeah, took it badly. Maybe that was the way he said it. We don't know how he said it. Yes?
He could have said the same thing without calling him a bandit. He said, you know from weapons. Instead of saying,
that's true.
And that would have...
By using the word a bandit,
He underscored his history, but he didn't have to. He could have said,
undermined him.
You know from these things. I respect your opinion.
Exactly.
So, but the fact that he couched it in because you were the leader of the bandits, that's why you know about this.
And yeah.
So he tainted the compliment.
Yes, Leo.
Does a person studying the Torah necessarily become a better person?
Does a person studying Torah necessarily become a better person? Not necessarily. He doesn't have good midot, right? His character is insulting his friend, even if.
Can't be somebody who's studying the Torah be a bandit.
Well, I think the assumption that Rabbi Yochanan is making is, I made you a better person. By bringing you closer to Torah, I made you a better person. And then that's the debate that keeps going after this, right? No, you didn't. You did nothing for me. And then he says, no, I brought you closer to God. But what did he also do? They were on equal footing until he put him down. That's what you're saying. Yeah.
He doesn't say you did nothing for me. He says, what benefit did you provide me? Let's say he's saying, what good are you doing that you bring me here? And they're calling me a bandit here as well.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
good have you done?
You haven't
It's
done
like,
anything
you
good for
should
me.
be awesome too, right?
Right.
So you should know what it's like.
Right.
If a woman or if a person does teshuva, that your teacher shouldn't be reminding you, and that's why it's Jewish halacha that says you
Yes.
don't remind a person.
Yes, you-
It's not you meant it as a compliment. No, Jewish law is very clear on this subject, and this is an example of why.
Yes,
It's not for a
exactly.
rabbi to say, well, I brought you closer to God, but in the meantime,
You're not supposed to remind.
you used to be a whore, you were a
Right.
prostitute, you should remember that, right?
Yeah, it very explicitly. It says, don't remind a Baal Tshuva of where they came from. Don't remind
is to kill their neshama,
of yes.
Why did the rabbi?
Margot.
Could we assume that the trigger here was being questioned on the ruling? Now they're both great wise men, highly respected scholars. One said this is when it's kosher, and the other challenged it and said no after it's been in the water. Would that have been
Oh, was the debate a source of tension? Well, actually, it could have been, but when you see the rest of the text, you'll see that Rabbi Yochanan enjoyed that kind of sparring, enjoyed the challenge. But yeah, okay. So let's read a little bit farther along, and then Then we'll pause. So, as a result of the quarrel, Rabbi Yochanan was offended, which in turn affected Reish Lakish, who fell ill. Rabbi Yochanan's sister, who was Reish Lakish's wife, came crying to Rabbi Yochanan, begging that he pray for Reish Lakish's recovery. She said to him, "Do this for the sake of my children, that they should have a father." Rabbi Yochanan said to her, "Leave your fatherless children, I will rear them. I will take care of them." She says, "Do this for the sake of my widowhood." He said to her, "Let your widows trust in me. That means God will take care of you." Ultimately, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish died. Pause, write whatever you're thinking, if you'd like to, and I'll take up a collection of thoughts or questions. What happened here is that, and you can write as we're talking, so what's the power dynamic here?
Yeah, big power dynamic.
Who holds power? And what do they hold power over?
Yochanan feels he has power over everybody, even if some people would resent it, because people make such a fuss about him, he can't help but be very, very arrogant and self-important.
So Rabbi Yochanan is high on his horse, and why is she going to him? Why is his sister approaching Rabbi Yochanan? What's the assumption here? He's the leading rabbi. If he prays for Reish Lakish's recovery, Reish Lakish will survive. So Reish Lakish's very life is in the hands of Rabbi Yochanan.
Which is sad to say that, knowing that.
And he refuses.
But the question is, why does Rabbi Yochanan bring him in to Torah at the beginning? What is his motive?
Why does Rabbi Yochanan bring him in?
Well, why? Why does he influence him? So I'm just wondering if this is shows that humanity, there's a leader and bring in people, but as soon as there's competition, you don't like that anymore.
So Rabbi Yochanan maybe started with good intentions, and then he became threatened by how great Reish Lakish had become, and now he sees finally he'll be able to. I'll show you. I'm the one who can. I have greater spiritual powers, and I won't use them for you. Let's see how you do, holy Reish Lakish, without me, which is terrible. Yes.
It's like he was holding a grudge.
He was holding a grudge, and it's a matter of life and death now. And he is so stubborn that he won't help.
So the lesson,
Yes.
I think, for everyone is there's so many things that you can let go. It's true, because sometimes when you see someone sick, just whatever you had, just let it go. You know where you're going, just make peace, let them go peacefully.
Right. This is a model of what not to do, because even as Reish Lakish's health is failing, Rabbi Yochanan won't budge.
He's out of his actions, though. He's out of his
But
actions, he feels guilty now.
Well, afterwards, he's going to feel bad about it. But before he dies, I think it's true, Laura, what you're saying. Actually, I have some stories in my family like this. People who wouldn't talk to each other or held a grudge, and finally, when one is about to go,
I'll just give you
they come and.
There was a feud in the family, and I said to my siblings, I said, let's not do what our uncles did, where they spoke after our grandmother passed away.
Right. Right.
Let them see everyone happy.
Right.
Like,
Don't wait until this point.
death together.
So I think that's an interesting comment on death, and that it can be a wake up for what's really important. Right.
Can I
Yes.
introduce a red herring in this? That maybe Rabbi Yochanan thought that Reish Lakish's illness was God sent and that he wouldn't have had any power of changing the direction. So he didn't want to go on record as saying, I'll pray for him and you'll see he'll
You're
be better."
trying to save the character of Rabbi Yochanan.
No, I'm just saying.
That
there's
maybe he knew
another-
the illness was from God and he shouldn't tamper.
Well, but also it would reflect badly on him as a leader that he wasn't able to change the course by praying
No,
for
she
him.
just asked, go see him.
Well,
He
no,
said, "Go
pray for
see,
him.
pray
for him.
pray for
No,
him."
but if he
Pray for him.
felt that, my prayers won't help and it'll make me look weak in the eyes of my followers, since I'm such a good man. So he didn't want to.
Okay, send me some letters. Send me some questions if they're coming.
I'm doing this, you know?
Fold it up, send it down. Any more questions?
Oh, I just want to retract something.
Retract something.
I want to retract.
I just wrote down what I said.
Oh, okay.
I'm not trying.
What are you retracting?
I'm retracting that maybe that statement, the bandit knows about his bandit could have been a compliment.
You've changed your mind. There's no way that the banditry was a compliment.
Clearly negative. Oh my God. As it developed. Oh, it was there. He had no. That's why he got it.
Exposure.
It was his wanted it. Exactly. And he wanted it. Why is he so upset? Why don't we ask the question? Why, by the way, why in the last paragraph is Yochanan so pained over losing it?
Okay, so let's read forward. There's some interesting comments about the role of beauty, and why we're holding beauty as an ideal, which is not a very Jewish value, maybe. There's some concern about the place of the women in this story. The sister doesn't get to choose who she's marrying, and then there's no concern for her widowhood either. And the way that bullying can literally kill someone. And yes, embarrassing a person is akin to killing them in the Jewish law. Yes. Okay, so let's move forward in the story. Thank you, everyone. I won't always read everything, but it helps me. I won't always read everything out loud, but it helps me to hear some of the thoughts that are going on in the room. So Reish Lakish is gone. Rabbi Yochanan is upset. Rabbi Yochanan is sorely pained over losing him. The rabbis said, "Who will go to calm Rabbi Yochanan's mind?" Right? He's getting really worked up. He's getting agitated. They said, "Let Rabbi Elazar ben Pedat go, as his statements are sharp." So what are we trying to do? We're trying to find a replacement for Reish Lakish. What do we know about that? Does that ever work? Oh, don't worry, you'll find someone else. God willing, people who lose a spouse find a new partner. But it's not a replace, right? It doesn't replace. You can find another chavruta, but it's never going to be Reish Lakish. But let's let Rabbi Elazar, he's really smart. Rabbi Elazar ben Pedat went and sat before Rabbi Yochanan. With regard to every matter that Rabbi Yochanan would say, Rabbi Elazar ben Pedat would say to him, "There is a ruling which is taught in a Braita that supports your opinion." So everything that Rabbi Yochanan taught, he said, I know something that backs that up. I can tell you something that backs that up. Rabbi Yochanan said to him, "Are you like the son of Lakish?" That's Reish Lakish. "In my discussions with the son of Lakish, when I would state a matter, he would raise 24 difficulties against me. And I would answer him with 24 answers. And the halacha by itself would become broadened and clarified. He would challenge me. That made me a better teacher. That made the halacha clearer. And yet you say to me, there's a ruling which is taught that supports your opinion. Do I not know that what I say is good?" What do I need that for? I need someone who's going to argue. I want to come back to this, to think about what is Rabbi Yochanan looking for in a partner. But then it goes on. Rabbi Yochanan went around rending his clothing, weeping and saying, "Where are you, son of Lakish? Where are you, son of Lakish?" Rabbi Yochanan screamed until his mind was taken from him. Right? He went crazy. And the rabbis prayed and requested for God to have mercy on him. And Rabbi Yochanan died. What did...
That's why they let Prince Harry.
We know that feuds can be really damaging. So.
Your emotions can do, what your emotional state can
Okay, so let's put aside whatever medical reality or non-reality might be. I mean, I don't know. Can people die of a broken heart, doctor?
Yes, absolutely.
Maybe of the combined stress and then the psychosomatic impact of that. But he goes insane. I mean, even in the quote, what do you imagine, right? Where are you, son of Lakish? Where are you, son of Lakish? What is he doing? Is he hallucinating? Is he talking to him? Has he become schizophrenic?
Yeah.
He's filled with guilt. He feels bad for what he did.
Yes, and I don't think he realized he was going to die.
Okay, so one possibility. I want to get to the bottom of this relationship, which is what we can understand based on the way these two men die. So why does Reish Lakish die? He becomes ill from having been so hurt and offended. Why does Rabbi Yochanan die? Guilt. Remorse.
He missed his friend.
He relied on him.
An unfed ego.
An unfed ego. That's very different from guilt.
Yeah. Well, he needed somebody to challenge him in order to maintain his greatness, and there was nobody that was...
So his greatness actually was not as great on its own. It was not as great without his foil, his part.
Somebody to challenge him.
What do you think?
Self-esteem. And also, I'm thinking that maybe he had highs and lows, you know? He did meditation.
He's a little bit manic depressive. Okay, wait, let's take hands so that everyone can hear each other. 1, 2, 3.
He menaced Rabbi Lakish. Was he not a great rabbi?
What was Rabbi Yochanan's life before Reish Lakish came into his life? Before Reish Lakish jumped into the Jordan River after him. He was great. Complacent. He was a great rabbi. But he got better? Or...
Do we know? Yeah, he was better for the challenge.
Okay, wait, there were hands over here before as well, and then we'll come back to you, Sylvia. Did you want to say something?
Getting back to the jumping to the water, for me, it's like a big relationship, love relationship.
So there's a love relationship. And what do you make of him giving his sister in marriage? It's a pretense?
I think it's just a...
Well, I mean, that would have been common in those days, anyway. What did you want to say?
They say that teacher,
Star-crossed lovers.
your spiritual children,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So-
There's this idea that someone who teaches Torah, it's as if you've given birth or you've brought them into the world.
And he was, I mean, there's so much dissonance here. He was responsible for bringing him to Torah, then he was responsible for humiliating him, then he was responsible for that lingering effect, and like all of this with someone that becomes your spiritual child.
Wow. So actually, it's interesting because when you talk about Reish Lakish being almost the spiritual child of Rabbi Yochanan, which is a different relationship dynamic than what we've said, but what does that do to the scene at the Jordan? It's like a birth, right? Emerging into the world, or it's a conversion, it's a mikvah, it's a baptism, right? Well, they got it from us, right? You don't have to read it that way. You don't want to read it that way. And Sylvia, you had something to say before. Okay, so 1, 2, 3.
I was going to say, as I wrote there, that there may have been some kind of unacknowledged homosexual attraction between Rabbi
That's what you were saying.
Yeah, and the rabbi, which the rabbi didn't even acknowledge. But now he may be missing him because of the attraction he has felt for Rabbi Reish Lakish, and it doesn't say anything about Yochanan having his own family. When he wants to take over his sister's children, it's as if he doesn't have his own.
Oh,
So
wow.
maybe there was some kind of unacknowledged homosexual feeling, which of course...
It's very
the world is
interesting.
not-
If
you
that
don't
was
think
the
of.
case, why
It's
didn't
just...
he go to say, I'm sorry?
What?
If that was the case of how he felt, why didn't he go?
But he didn't acknowledge his feelings for Reish Lakish until Reish Lakish was gone, and then he misses him.
Never even think of it. Either.
Right, of course.
I mean, it was totally unacceptable
Right.
for anybody to have such feelings. But also the fact that he was so ready, I mean, telling his sister to give up her children and he would raise them, it looks like he just didn't have his own. So
Maybe he
he's
didn't have his
feeding
own
himself,
children.
of
Yeah,
course,
yeah,
and
yeah.
He's totally disregarded what his sister's feelings are, because in those days women really didn't amount to very much.
They didn't. They
Women's
didn't
feelings
have
just
their
didn't
own.
matter. If you see,
Yeah,
all through the
yeah.
Bible, or even up to our
I mean,
station.
a lot of the laws around Jewish marriage are designed to protect women's rights, to protect the fact that there's a ketubah, there are financial obligations, is to protect women's rights in an atmosphere, in a culture where women's agency wasn't acknowledged. Okay, I want to give a couple other people a chance to speak. Go ahead,
You can kill
Judith.
somebody with emotions, not just physical with a dagger or knife. So there is more to it, you know.
Wait, say it again. If you
You can kill somebody with emotions.
With
He
emotions.
was in a rage and he wish him to be dead, and
Uh-huh.
so he was guilty. This, but not that's the reason that they say the physical was before a bandit that was, you know.
That's
you
so
have to
interesting.
use a
So
knife or a dagger,
you're offering the contrast
physical and the emotional.
between the physical violence that Reish Lakish would have been
You
an
can kill
expert in.
someone
You
not
kill
just
someone
for
with physical violence. He
it's
knows the
fine.
dagger. He knows this weaponry.
Yeah.
But here, this is spiritual or emotional violence,
yeah.
and the result is the same. That's really interesting. Yes, Barbara.
I think I do see a Greek influence here. First of all, this whole opening thing with so beautiful,
Right.
was very shy. I was the one that wrote you that note.
Yeah, about the Greek ideals of beauty.
You would think that after such a paragraph, and that there would be, and this was very wrong that he was boastful, and therefore God punished him. But but it doesn't. There's no comment. And what the Greek philosophers used to do was they had study partners. They had younger men who were also their homosexual partners, and they all got married. It was not
Right, that wouldn't be
Of course
unusual.
they got married because that was the proper thing. So it looks like they struck a deal. I think there's a lot unsaid here. There was the attraction, and it was like, I'll give you my sister. You come and study.
Right,
Coming and
right,
studying with me is
right.
a way of being together.
Absolutely.
And they
Well,
probably,
they would spend most of the days together.
exactly, and maybe carried on a relationship.
Who knows?
for years. And maybe
Look,
that's-
nothing is explicit here.
no, nothing.
Right, so you can read that interpretation, and someone else can tell you, no, they were study buddies. That's all. I understand. There's a look. I introduced it right from the beginning when I said, why is he jumping into the river, and he can't even put his clothes back on, right? It's a hot day. Do you know there's a saying in the Talmud, elsewhere in the Talmud, o chavruta, o mituta. Either chavruta, partnership, friendship, or chavruta is also study, o mituta, or death. Companionship or death. And there's something very existential about losing your right hand, right? Your primary partner in life. And by the way, your wife was never for love, not until a couple hundred years ago. Yes, Simone.
Well, I think it's very interesting, something you can observe in many partnerships or love relationships, that the very same personality trait that you love most in someone, you hate most. It's a very common thing.
What you love most about someone is also the thing that you hate most.
And the wildness and the arudeness and the being a bandit.
Aha, aha.
He used to really hurt him. It was something that he hated probably, but it was the same thing that he loved most, because this is what he would.
So I'm going to take it even one step further, that maybe Rabbi Yochanan sees in Reish Lakish a side of himself that he cannot express, right? And he loves that, but he hates that, and then but he has to remind him that he is that. You are always that bandit because that's what I need you to be. So I had a remarkable study of this text. Last year I was at a conference studying about this with a man named Eli Holzer. Eli Holzer is a professor, I want to say Bar Ilan, I might have gotten that wrong. His focus of his scholarship is Chavruta study, Chavruta learning. He travels around the world. He gave us an amazing story of going to Japan to teach teachers there about Chavruta learning. And the way that studying in pairs is an educational tool, right, that can be used, and the science of Chavruta study, And we went through really interesting exercises trying to fine-tune what it means to be a chavruta, what it means to be a good listener, and then how to not project too much on the other person of what your own ideas are. And we went through this text, and then and we took it apart, and then he said something remarkable, and he's written this up about Rabbi Yochanan's chavruta style. Think about what it means for Rabbi Yochanan to want a chavruta who challenges him in order to what? Strengthen his own opinion. What did he say Reish Lakish would do? He would raise 24 difficulties so I could answer them back. And the halacha was strengthened or broadened. Which halacha was broadened? My opinion. My opinion became stronger. My perspective became greater because Reish Lakish was there to challenge it. And so, is that really a partner? Is that, so what he's saying is, he was never interested in what Reish Lakish really had to say. He was only interested in Reish Lakish as a study partner because whatever he would say, he could answer back a better answer. So he was not actually listening for Reish Lakish to have his own ideas. He was the teacher, Reish Lakish was the student, and every question the student would ask would make the teacher sound even smarter. And he wanted that. Rabbi Yochanan wanted that. And Rabbi Yochanan is engaging in a power relationship, right? I'm always the one with the power. I'm always the teacher. You're always the bandit, right? The one that I plucked you out of oblivion, Reish Lakish. He has to remind him of that. He has to do that from time to time because what Dr. Holzer was saying is that it's usury. He's using Reish Lakish for his own, for his own benefit, his ego, his image, whatever it is. And then this, Reish Lakish needs his help. His own sister says, please, daven for Reish Lakish, pray for him that he'll recover. And, it's his chance to show him up and to say, no, I'm always greater. And like I said before, maybe Reish Lakish can't pray for himself, you see? He's going to die because I won't save him. It's terrible, I know. It's not a nice painting of this character. But once he read it that way, I couldn't unsee it, I couldn't see it differently. And maybe there was still the attraction or the friendship or the connection. Maybe there was, a great sparring partner. But it wasn't, he never saw it as equals. And so Reish Lakish dies, and Rabbi Yochanan, it's like, when you don't have something to press up against or to fight up against anymore, he just loses his selfhood. And he can't handle it. What do you think, Margot?
But ideally, so is he defining that this was a non-healthy working chavruta?
That's what he was saying. He said this is a model of an unhealthy chavruta relationship.
But didn't you say that they were both benefiting, using each other? Isn't that what a chavruta? I'm talking to you, you're talking to me, we're strengthening.
So you're saying in an ideal chavruta, we're both benefiting. Yeah. But what did Reish Lakish get out of this? The law benefits, but for Rabbi Yochanan, he only wants his own opinion to benefit.
But I think he did.
You're pushing against this, or you're?
It doesn't speak to me, but I have one quick question, and you knock this right out, because I never saw it before, and I'm sure this is crazy. With the question of the halakha, one guy says you're formed in the fire, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's determined whether it's kosher.
Mm-hmm.
And the other guy says after the weapon has been dunked in the water. So
are you going back to water?
He lost his strength after the water.
Wow.
He lost his strength after the water. And in the end, the insult was, you're always a bandit. In other words, you were formed in the fire.
But the weapons become stronger when you put them in then they get their final form.
But that's
Yeah,
what
that's the
Lakish
fun.
is saying. Yes. Lakish is saying that.
So Lakish is, let's follow this through. Lakish is saying the water matters most. I immersed in water, I'm done. And
Got a chance.
I had a conversion or a change. And Rabbi Yochanan retorts, well, you're always back there in the fire, or you're always, once a bandit, always a bandit. Wow, that's a beautiful symbolic reading.
I never saw that in
I mean, look, there's nothing wrong with reading something on a simple level and on a metaphoric level. This is a very normal halachic conversation where there's a little detail that we need to kind of fine-tune in order to know the halacha. And by the way, the Talmud is not a halachic document. That's not what I mean by, I don't mean what it sounds like I mean. The Talmud is not interested in coming always to a final conclusion. It's interested in recording the opinions. And sometimes it will then say, after a few generations of arguing this matter, they'll say, Rava says halacha is according to this one. But sometimes the argument won't be settled, and it's the later commentaries who ask, then whose opinion do we rule, according to this one or according to that one? So this is a very typical Talmudic argument. Is it this or is it that? We have two valid opinions of the same generation, and probably in the future generations, they'll have, we all go according to this. And Rabbi Yochanan himself is trying to make that ruling, which probably is unusual for Rabbi Yochanan to say, I was wrong. He says it was the fire. He says it was the water. He says, oh, I'm wrong. We should listen to him because he knows weaponry. So it's a very typical conversation. And the fire, the water speaks to the water. That could also be, it's a beautiful metaphoric way to read it. Okay, yes, we'll go 1, 2, 3.
Is this not pointing at the imperfection of life, of people, of humanity, and the fragility of life, and that we are born thinking that everything is equal, but it's not?
So you're saying this speaks to a deep truth about humanity, human relationships. Well, if the question that I started us off with is, what have we learned about this friendship or this relationship? And we came to some very interesting theories about the dynamics of the relationship. But their lives depended on this relationship. Their very lives depended on their friendship, on their chavruta. And when one turned his back on the other, that one died. When that one died, that one died. It was sustaining. It was life-sustaining for them.
It's common in real life. You see it all the time.
Yeah.
People, families.
We're just short on time, so just 2 short comments. Yeah.
Okay, what I just want to say is that Rabbi Yochanan again shows his arrogance, because when he says that, son of Lakish gave him 24 arguments against his position, he answers him with 24 answers, and the halakha by itself would become broadened and clarified because he is so smart. Because of his answers, the halakha is broadened and clarified.
Right. It shows Rabbi Yochanan's arrogance and interest in his own.
This is better.
Yes, his own opinion is always going to win. Yes, exactly. Thank you. And what did you want to say, Sharon?
I think you're not supposed to point out that a convert is a convert.
Right.
It's the same
Right.
idea.
It's the same thing. You're not supposed to remind someone who did tshuva that they've changed. You're not supposed to remind a convert that they're a convert. And yes, that's what he did to Reish Lakish. Yeah, and it was the deepest insult for him. It drove him to illness.
I'm sorry, but it seems like we're forgetting a really important aspect of it, which is Torah study. We're talking about the interpersonal dynamics, and we're trashing Rabbi Yochanan's character, last nail in the coffin. But what keeps coming back to me is he's saying, and the halacha itself would become broadened and clarified, right? And you guys are taking it and saying, oh, but so that means that it's like reflection on me. But people who are passionate about Torah study care about Torah and care about halacha. And when you have a partner or a student or someone who helps bring out the best and helps consolidate in people to understand Torah and halacha, that in itself is a higher purpose.
So I would
it's not about
say both can be true.
me and my personality.
I think it's a very important point. Rabbi Yochanan sees himself as working toward a higher purpose.
Yeah, he said,
And
look,
he
this
wants
guy
to get to the truth of
really
halakha.
hashed out, and
He-
halacha was expanded and improved with him. So that's his goal as a teacher, not to say, but look at me,
I mean,
I look so great.
Look, it's one reading. It's a reading that I think is. I know we need to end, so I want to just say it's a reading that I think is supported by the text, but you can also disagree with it and have a different reading and say Rabbi Yochanan was very nobly committed to his understanding of the halakha. He would do anything because what's ultimately important to him is getting the right Torah out there. And yet both can be both can be true. He can also have been an arrogant leader. He could have also been, and he could have been using Reish Lakish for a higher purpose. We don't know about Reish Lakish's own experience, and he's the victim. In many ways, he's the victim here, and then Rabbi Yochanan is the victim of his own hubris, killing Reish Lakish, etc. We're going to stop. There's always a lot more. I want to emphasize that, I brought one read of this text. There are many reads of this text. I find it very compelling, and I don't mean it in any way of disrespect to the Torah, to these rabbis. These rabbis, just as much as Moses and Aaron were human and were flawed, these rabbis were human beings, and their relationships were complicated. So this relationship was so central to these two men's lives that without it, they couldn't live. And I just thought that was a really interesting commentary on death. So we'll end on that. Thank you.